Hi, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. This is the most important thing you can listen to today.
He's the one.
I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I could do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella's story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Capital Hacking begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the big show. Josh McCown here with the abundant John Edwin.
Yes, and guys, I'm wearing a shirt that says abundance right now because we are living in abundance, Josh. And today we had Sam Finn on, and he did an amazing job. He talks about how he launched his first business with his buddies in college. They were all 19 years old. He got an idea in a very strange place that he'll explain.
That's a great point.
And they rocked it, and they built this thing. He was working 2 other jobs to stay afloat, and then had an exit, and then started another company and had an exit, and continued to move through his career. Very fascinating.
I do. I think there's a couple journeys there that we all want to take away from, no matter what industry you're in. We talk a lot about the truth or the unvarnished reality of a startup. And he has I think he has some battle scars is what I think. And so he talks about the truth behind that. But one of the things that really caught my attention, John, was his passion to make sure that he worked his butt off to deliver for his investors in that first venture, because it was a tough venture. It was a creative idea, and creative ideas are hard to make succeed. And he gives the truth about that. I think you're going to love this episode. A lot of wisdom.
Let's go.
We have Sam on the big show, John. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, Sam Finn and I, we've become recent friends, and really quickly, because we've had some great conversation about many, many things. And so, Sam, can you give our listeners a little background on who you are?
Hey, I'm Sam. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in the startup space for the majority of my career, but with various stops in finance and private equity and venture and technology companies of all sorts of shapes and sizes and sectors that we'll be talking a little bit about here today.
Yeah. So, you said you were starting out, you purchased a company or started a company, Mobile News. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, happy to. So, like a lot of problem solvers, I found a gap in the market that was, from what I consumed as a lover of long form journalism that, started and ended with various forms of, the early Financial Times, Flipboard, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. And I said, there's an opportunity here to give something a little more tailored, driven from more of an analytics and keyword package. And you don't need a thing called journalists, because so many people are re-syndicating and iterating and regurgitating, for lack of a better term, the same storyline. And so it led me to that bite-sized news thing that had a moment for a few years, about 12 years ago. And I was actually, in all places, I was in the bathroom, like a lot of us that do our reading or our crossword. And it hit me. I'm like, bite-sized news, 500 characters, modify an image, partner and sell your data to the New York Times to say, hey, this is what 25-year-olds are reading about celebrity or health or finance or personal finances. This is what your readership really wants. So that led me to start Vizo News with a couple of really incredible individuals from both a technical side and operations. And we did okay there and raised just under a couple $1 million and had a very accomplished readership that we looked at it as young persons. At the time when we started, we were all about 19 and 20 respectively, if I remember correctly. And a big part of it was, how do we activate this young audience? How do we make them interested with this diminishing attention span?
Hey everybody, it's Robert Helms, host of the Real Estate Guys radio program. And when you're not listening to our show, make sure you're tuned to Capital Hacking. You're going to dig it.
So how'd you do that? I mean, that is, by the way, great idea.
Yeah.
But the magic is let's call it going viral / getting pickup. How did you get the pickup and on what platform? Was this like a channel on a Twitter feed?
So I'm really happy you brought up Twitter. So this is before Snapchat had launched Snapchat Discovery, and Apple News wasn't in every iPhone, which led to this massive opportunity to say, how are we going to reach our audience? So actually what we did was we did a partnership with a number of colleges. Being college age, we contacted our friends from high school and various study abroad or travel experiences, said we want to enlist. We started focusing in and around the Northeast, where we were out of New York City. And we expanded that out to partnerships with Dan Rather and other personalities once we had to lean into once we had a regular 7-figure monthly and daily readership, we had to look at how do we reach all and activate all these channels and then partner with independent brands like Dan Rather, who at that point, I believe, had been relegated from his post, so to speak, without speaking to that too much. And the other side of it was, candidly, we did an early partnership with Huawei, where we were in every Huawei device in China and Israel for our latest launch to strategically grow our international side. So, my co-founders and I had this unique experience where we were able to lead, a team in Israel and China that we had never met. And we're running from New York because we all had our different backgrounds and support from friends and family alike. But, the thing I remember, for being honest, gentlemen, was I also worked 2 other jobs to make sure I could put my founder's contribution in. I really am not taking a paycheck for a year and a half after very nice investment banking internships that I walked away from the opportunity. It was one of those where you really had to. I didn't sleep during that period of my life. The story is, my story is everyone else that's ever tried to foray into space on their own, they had no business and they had this big idea and, took some outside capital.
That is one heck of a story, being in college. And then you had an exit. So how did you even know what to look for when you're getting offers and you weren't taken advantage of? How did you even educate yourself in exiting that company?
Sure. So, well, I would say part of it is seeing the writing on the wall. So during that time, that once we were post minimum viable product and had tested and gained traction, we did come to a point of stagnancy where we saw Snapchat and Apple News being able to really outspend us in terms of, what celebrity wouldn't want to have a Snapchat discovery channel versus a Vizo news channel? This small startup, couple of kids in New York, Snapchat, Apple, Vizo. There's a clear loser in it. And not that life is so black and white, but what we saw was we had a unique keyword ranking algorithm. And I say this is where my journey, you can argue, it began as a professional. I think I go back to a quote from Camille Pizarro that basically translates to beauty is where others find and see nothing, is kind of how it translates in English. And one of the things that was clear to us was our ability to rank the top trending story because of how the actual visual orientation of the application of your primary feed was here and then your 2 elective feeds were below. We were able to say, okay, we know about John is X age and we have this demographics, Y demographics about him. Based on this, John is most likely to read about startup related news within financial and business. And then on the political side, he's focused on domestic related issues in and around the US. Generic stuff. But again, we can point to certain customer behaviors at a time where 10 years ago, there was a lot less predictive and recursive analytics within the startup front, I would say, and your end customer and your B2B2C transaction was a lot less complicated than it is at an IBM or an Oracle at that state. So the opportunity then, to your point about buyers and sellers, was really assessing, okay, what if the big exit that we thought this could be, and this is our baby, is kind of about to level off and we're about to see a steady decline, what are our best assets? Do we have a great set of eyes? Do we have $1 million smile? What is it about us that makes us terminally unique? And what it was how that data was cached and how we could regurgitate that to say, hey, New York Times, we know this about John's behaviors, and it's going to help you position and make John a paying customer. That led to our exit in assessing a buyer who was looking for a more technology-driven first approach without a patent, because we didn't have a patent over the process and there wasn't enough. It would have been a 2 to 3 year process at the time that, we didn't have time for. And that's what led to our first exit. And we all walked away with some cash to go on to the next venture, whatever that looked like for each of us.
What a life's journey and experience, though. I mean, In the end, when you leave an exit like that, what happens next? Are there people that call you for, do they bring you on into those new budding companies within that ecosystem, or do you become attractive to investor? Like, do you become a private equity venture capitalist?
Hi, this is Melanie McCallan. Josh and I are just so grateful for the many investors who have already joined us at Accountable Equity. Accountable Equity is so much more than a capital group. It's really a community of accredited investors that want to learn and grow together. I just want to personally invite you, if you want to find out more about this type of investment and see if it's right for you and your family, please visit us at accountableequity.com.
Hey, it's Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. Enjoy.
Sure. So as it's on my LinkedIn. At the time, I'm a big loyalty and faith guy, put simply. And we had a wonderful company that did a lot of outside BD and marketing for us. And I saw they had a heck of a pipeline because of their CRM. Appuler was first in everything. And I got to give it to my former coworker, Brian, and a number of the people that he had there. And he was very candid with me. As sexy as the business looked, it was not performing like it was. And it was a little bit of a resting of laurels, but they did great work. They had great contacts, but this agency just was underperforming. They didn't have your classic wholesalers that you need for the different archetypes to open and close a sales pipeline. And contrary to how I might be coming off as a very extroverted, I have a lot of programmatic knowledge as a software engineer that helps, but I also can do this part of this qualitative side that a lot of engineers don't do. And so I went and did some work with Appier to figure out what I was going to do next. And they had a wealth of a pipeline, because if you looked up at mobile app consulting, they were top 3 in everything 10 years ago. And so I got to work with, it led me to my interim job with a biotechnology company that had just raised 8 figures in funding to move to the final stage of their go-to-market treatment around cystic fibrosis. It led me to touch base with a number of prominent dating apps 10 years ago that we were able to get amazing behaviors that I was brought in to consult on, because we were able to say that, I'm just going to say unofficially without disclosing the app, but some of those dating apps 10 years ago were crawling the private chats to license data to restaurants and Open Table to say, again, John, I'm killing you, brother, but 30-something-year-old white male John, let's just say, is matching with this type and is most likely to go to this district in LA for this type of restaurant for a date. And how do you reach that person? And things were a lot simpler 10 years ago than they were. The technical stack from an analytic and a consumer behavior was very different 10 years ago. So to me, it was less about, to answer your question, whether the job offers were coming or not is not the question. I was still hungry. Yeah, I still had to eat. I had to feed this greater calling of building and testing products and trusting my faith around the cornerstones of not only how I do business and operate within my life, but also how I could bring out the best in my fellow coworkers and in process, which isn't a perfect science, right? And you do get burned for it, but it led to a very rewarding, both financially and professional journey, so to speak.
That man. And so so then we're gonna move to the consulting aspect of it.
Sure.
Before COVID, I know you were working with quite a few amazing companies. Yeah. How did you get into consulting, and what spaces were you in?
Sure. A lot of it started with, I had a lot of great relationships. Again, from the first exit to what I did in between and thereafter, a lot of it was calling friends and seeing what they were up to. And it led to consulting within the dating app space. It led to consulting within, and let's just talk specifically. So within the dating app space, it was product and designing better user behaviors that led to the end result, more matches, getting off the dating app, or if it was staying on the dating app because you're continuously failing, how do we improve that experience for the newcomer to your power user, the guy that spends the most money and the gal that hardly touches it? I was in the art space and working on driving, how does a museum in New York City reach a 24-year-old that has New York at their fingertips, literally, and outside their doorstep, and say, I want to go to the Whitney Museum today and see the latest Gauguin exposition that's only there for 3 months. How do we make that conversion from reaching them from a digital level to getting them inside the museum. And then to, wonderful flagship brands like Singer Sewing, where we're looking at how do we digitize this massive catalog of products for other businesses to the independent sewer that has the independent sewing related startup, as we've seen the pillow phenomenon and the new bed.
Funny. We actually know somebody in that space, right? Alex Felice's family. But Sam, when you're talking about all this great, I mean, this is a little in depth, kind of the way your career trajectory. What would you give to those listeners? So we have a lot of entrepreneur listeners that are navigating, developing either teams like human capital or financial capital. What would be one or two great piece of advice you could share with them at whatever stage of their journey? Just choose one, or the brand new startup, how to launch something, or are they ready for exit? Would you mind sharing a little wisdom with them?
Hey guys, it's John Vroman, founder of Front Row Dads, and you're listening to Capital Hacking, the best investment you'll make today.
Sure. I'll try not to get preachy, and I'll keep it simple. Building something from nothing always sounds more glamorous until you realize how many times you have to fail before something actually sticks. And again, I really break that down. It always sounds more glamorous whenever you tell your friends or that person you're seeing or their friends or family, but until you realize how many times you have to fail before it sticks. And then what goes into building yourself or a product or a team back up, that's the measuring stick, so to speak. My journey as a startup founder is each of theirs, I would say. It has a blend of exits, sure, we're celebrating, and MVPs that never saw the light of day, and that's okay. Number one, it's so cliche. Acceptance literally is the answer. And again, I'm going to go with the cliches and I'll be done with them, but each loss taught me more than a win, because each loss in my case taught me how to listen. And I was a person that, I was probably deemed unparitable at a young age, but I won't digress into a therapy session. We talked a little bit, and I'm sure you guys will parse some of it. But when I launched my first company, I don't think I had any idea what market validation really meant. And I thought great ideas would sell themselves and good tech would result in better results. That doesn't mean anything. What sells is execution, consistency, and often unglamorous rhythm. As Josh got to hear me singing, I was doing a little country testing of my vocals when you guys weren't there, because I was like, maybe it's just Frozen. But I want to go back to that. What sells is execution and consistency. And that is something I personally strive for today. And I look for in my teammates, my subordinates, those above me, and it's often unglamorous. It's rhythm building, it's testing, failing, adjusting, rinse and repeat. And then again, to your point about an eventual exit, it doesn't matter how revolutionary your idea is, like investing, just touching on it, it all matters about the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are backed by the consistency, testing, QAing, and then execution. Are you serving your customers' real pain points, or are you serving ego and ideas? Yeah. I'll pause there.
No, it just makes me think, I was reading something that Alex Hormozi posted yesterday, and I'm going to paraphrase, but he was basically saying, like, building wealth comes from doing things very consistently that are also could be very, very boring, and you just hang on longer than other people and you become wealthy. And again, I'm butchering it, but that was the main point of his post on social media that I read yesterday. And what you're saying is right, because a lot of people are going to, go with what's comfortable. And if something's not working, they're gonna be, all right, it didn't work. But it's the people that stick with it, not failing the first time and leaving, but it's the second, the third, and taking those hits and refining it and getting those details and continuing to be consistent that make it.
And I'll just add to that, it's a two-way conversation. It's not a sermon, but I think the foundation first approach is similar to, in my personal beliefs, from an investment standpoint. And right, the best investors, so to speak, aren't chasing hype. They're anchored in fundamentals. One thing why I've always stayed away from crypto: volatility is not a fundamental. And just because your friends are getting rich off something doesn't mean you will. Cash flow, value add, creation and strong leadership goes a long way. And that is about putting your ego aside and understanding that market swings and sentimental shifts will happen, but fundamentals stay the same. It's like faith in a storm. Can't control the weather, can't control the riptide, but you can build your house on a rock. Just put it out there.
Love it, man. That's awesome, Sam. I appreciate how you brought that all the way home to everybody. We could all learn from that, use that of the fundamentals or the leadership, the cash flow, and the long-term rhythm. So how can we find you, Sam, if people want to reach back out to you and learn more?
Oh, sure. I'll give my personal email right here. Finn, Finn, SRF at iCloud.com. I won't give my mobile over here, but
that's okay.
But so yeah, easy to read. Or you should link out with. You can find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm Finn Sam. On LinkedIn is my in my hyperlink.
People will love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, gentlemen.
Damn straight. We just got we got to the end of another great show. And everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends. Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.